Okay, I would like to call to order the February 1st, 2023 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. At this time, staff, please call the roll so we can establish a quorum.
Brian Rossi. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. At this time, I'm only asking those CAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I do want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the bottom of the base prior to responding. It will turn red. Ryan Rossi. Aquanette Tyson Thomas.
Here.
Kate Layton.
Here.
James Garvin.
Here.
Mark Bruner.
Here.
Mona Bean. Paula Ryan will be absent. Jim Knight. James Bonfiglio.
Here.
Richard Basilati.
Here.
Sammy Brown. Mark Forrest. BJ Mishra. Francisco Gill.
Here.
Myra Newman.
Here.
Terry Brown. Greg Fagan.
Here.
The municipalities of Boynton Beach, Belle Glade, Lake Worth Beach, and the Port of Palm Beach will be marked as absent for this meeting. Albert Richwagon. Wendang.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any modification to the agenda?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there, for other CAC members, are there any objections or? So
I'm
there's
sorry,
no
there are
modification?
no modifications and nobody requested to join virtually.
Okay, so since there are no modifications, can I get them?
And we won't need a motion, Madam Chair. I apologize.
No? Okay, can we move to item 1? I'm sorry, this is
When
very.
I'm sorry.
very
Normally, we
different.
do have some folks requesting to join virtually, but none asked
Okay.
us this time. I apologize.
So can we move to item 1D?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes of December 7th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes for December 7, 2022. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by James and a second by James. So thank you. So the two James, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. Item 1E, general public comments. Instruction to how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Are there any general comments being received at this time?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. So at this time, I'd like to invite any CAC members' comments on items that's not already on the agenda. And if it doesn't seem like we have any member participating remotely. Am I correct? Okay,
That is correct.
all right, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, James.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that a couple weeks ago, Leadership Palm Beach County had their annual focus event, of which the TPA was a gracious host for a half-day worth of events and speakers here at the office. It was exceptional. The TPA and staff did amazing, and their hospitality was great. They rolled out the red carpet for us. It was really, really greatly appreciated. I just wanted to share that with everybody that a lot of great information got in the hands of some really good people. So thank you all.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. Representing District 6, I also feel like just beyond District 6, I'm also representing Royal Palm, Wellington, Palm Beach Gardens, Belle Glade, South Bay, Pahokee, because of the State Road 7 extension. It's happened again. Just this past week, we had another very, very serious vehicle crash on North Lake Boulevard, just west of Ibis. I wish the families well with their recoveries and the injuries involved and people involved. It was a response of over 3 fire stations, Trauma Hawk. And we know we just also had another very, very serious crash just a month or 2 prior to that, where also both lanes of North Lake Boulevard were shut down. The result of this was over a 3-hour gridlock to get out of the acreage and Loxahatchee areas, Royal Palm, Wellington, if they choose to come north through the State Road 7 and then through the acreage. I know it affected a lot of people. I've spoke with a lot of people about what they had to deal with this. And it was awful. And so imagine being at your house, having to be somewhere and you can't even get out. And when I say absolute gridlock, I'm not exaggerating and by any means. So just recently, the Palm Beach Post put out an article by Valentina Palm wrote the article. Actually, I got an email just was very few days before Christmas. I didn't notice it, asking to be interviewed. Unfortunately, I didn't get to speak in this article. However, there was a few things that really strikes me that I want to bring to the attention of that a lot of this is just not true and what's being said is not true. So I'll go through this very quickly, a few things here. I mean, in the first paragraph of the article, it states that that this road, the extension is going to be across West Palm Beach's water supply. That is false. That is not accurate. The city argues that extending State Road 7 would contaminate grassy waters preserve. I can go on and on about how grassy waters has already been contaminated by IBIS with their golf course. All the roads, the runoffs, North Lake Boulevard, Okeechobee Boulevard, all the runoff into Clear Lake, and to grassy waters itself. I find this very interesting, and I've met him before, a gentleman named Sal Fazo. He's the president of North County Neighborhood Coalition. I've seen him at meet and greets, and he's very boastful about how IBIS comes out and votes more than anybody. I've heard it with my own ears. IBIS and Bay Winds vote more than anybody in the entire city. So as you can imagine, when somebody as powerful as Sal says, this is our only source of water, that again is not true at all. Yes, it collects rainwater and it may be the main source, but the city of West Palm Beach also pumps in water from Lake Okeechobee through the L8 to the M Canal and into Grassy Waters Preserve, Lake Mangonia, and the Clear Lake. So statements like that are completely not true. The blue-green algae comes from Lake Okeechobee with the fertilizers and the pesticides runoff. So when people read this and they see this, these are inaccurate statements. Another statement here says that this will pave a new road from 60th North to North Lake, bisecting the preserve to connect the new street to a service road built in IBIS. First off, this extension is not bisecting anything. Bisecting is cutting in two. It is not bisecting the preserve. And this is not going to a service road built in IBIS. The existing State Road 7 that is off of North Lake was there before IBIS. And IBIS currently uses it as their own private entrance to their east gate. So once again, you read things like this and they're not true. A representative, an elected official from the Indian Trails Improvement District, a gentleman I know named Keith Giorgiano, he quoted that there's no way that this road shouldn't have been built 30 years ago, except for people with money paying to block this road. I 100% agree with that. People are paying to have this money, pay money to have this road blocked. And these are questions that really need to be asked and investigated that this continues. And a few things that the paper did mention, it did mention that North Lake does cut horizontally through the preserve. That is true. And there is no runoff protection or traffic protection of the preserve. It did mention in 2018, the city found fertilizers from IBIS in the preserve. That is also true. But when Mr. Fazo says 2 wrongs don't make a right, and you guys know I will, but I'm not going to today. I could say 200 million wrongs that the city has done don't make a right. So when I see things like this, I just think it's important to know, put them out. And, you know, I'm representing District 6 and the rest of the county, and this is very, very important road for just a few of the reasons I mentioned. And thank you for hearing me again. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. I noticed that we have a new member today, Kate, with the town of Jupiter. Would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kate. I'm representing the town of Jupiter. Locally up there, I work for a nonprofit, El Sol. I run educational programs for adult vocational training programs. But my history is also background with transportation. I attended UT Austin, wrote my master's thesis about motorcycling in the northeast of Brazil, all about public health and safety. So my passion has always been with transportation.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome. And yes, Amanda.
And Madam Chair, I just wanted to note for the record that Vijay Mishra has joined us in person.
Thank you, BJ. And for the record, Ramona is also joining us.
Thank you.
All right, great. We're going to move to item 1G, which is the CAC liaison report. Who's doing the report today? Andrew. Okay, perfect.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So there's a large report printed out on your table that's going to have a lot more items on there than what will be shown on the screen. But this is also be posted to the website after the meeting. So I'm just going to go through some of the main highlights. The first is tomorrow and Friday is going to be the Safe Streets Summit. That's going to be hosted in Hollywood, Florida. It's a culmination of South Florida partners and then also other ones throughout the state who come to this summit. We have it every year. So if you signed up, we get to see you tomorrow and then also on Friday. We'd like to congratulate the city of Westlake. They're another city here that has adopted a Vision Zero resolution, and that was on January 3rd. So that makes them the 12th local municipality to adopt a Vision Zero resolution. A similar update I wanted to mention that's not on your packet, and we heard about this today regarding Vision Zero actually is there was a Safe Streets for All discretionary grant that was out there in the federal government. And they had awards today, awardment of funds for those. Multiple communities here in Palm Beach County received those to implement their own Vision Zero action plan, including Palm Beach County. I believe it was also Wellington, Green Acres, Boca Raton, and West Palm Beach. So that's exciting to see the work that they're really doing in the next year or two towards Vision Zero. Next is there's going to be a series of webinars when it comes to grant resources. One of them is the USDOT is going to host one on February 8th from 3 to 4 p.m. And that's going to be on their website. You can register for that, but we have a link on our website as well at palmbeachtpa.org/USDOT webinar. There's also going to be a grant session similar to that hosted by FDOT. It's going to be coming down here to discuss those in Miami and then also in Fort Lauderdale. So the one that our staff is attending is going to be February 16th in Fort Lauderdale. Next slide. Our next governing board meeting is going to be in this room on February 16th. That's also a virtual meeting for those who can't attend in person. And then our funding programs, our state roads, our local initiatives and transportation alternatives, those grant applications are going to close on February 17th. And so during the next meeting for you all, you'll see that initial list of those who applied, and then you and the other committees and the board will prioritize those later on in the process for those projects for the next year. Next one. Okay. Next, I want to mention is Florida Bicycle Month is coming up in March. There's been multiple events throughout the county and also the state. But the ones that we're hosting here at TPA, we're going to have a webinar on bike safety on March 7th. And then also we're hosting a bike ride on March 31st. So if you follow our website at /events, you'll find out more information on those specific ones if you want to come out and attend with us. And then also our TPA public participation plan. This is a required document that we have to update. And we're in that period of update. And you typically update this right before you kick off your long range transportation plan. So that's open for public review and feedback up until March 16th. And that's at palmbeachtpa.org/PPP. We'd love to see your feedback, especially as the Citizens Advisory Committee might have some better ways of displaying things in there for the public. So if you can and take a look at that, and hopefully it's a good resource and easy to understand. So if you have any comments, be sure to check that out. Okay. And then let's see here. Last I wanted to say are the governing board and committee training workshops. So we're going to have for new members and old members when it comes to what the TPA does as a metropolitan planning organization. We have updated our training documents. We'll be hosting a workshop on that. For those governing board members who are trying to be officials, seats on our as like a chair or vice chair or be part of our other committees throughout the state, they're required to do that training. But it's open for anybody else who wants to learn more about what the TPA does. So I'd encourage you all, if you want to learn more and are new or just want to be refreshed on what we do, it's going to be held on February 24th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And you can find out more at palmbeachtpa.org/training. And then we're going to have additional safety workshops that we're going to be doing coming up in a few months on complete streets on March 24th, and then Vision Zero on April 28th. And so those have to save the date for those. I think that's it for that. We also had one last item that I believe was printed out and provided to you all. And it's also on the main printout of this liaison report, and that's the Florida Turnpike widening public meeting. They'll be hosting a public meeting on February 21st virtually, and then on February 23rd in person. And that's for the widening of the turnpike from West Palm Beach Service Plaza to Okeechobee Boulevard. So that's a big project to be impacting us in the coming years here. And so you can find out more information on that website, but also come out to the public meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And I see Myron, you have a comment on these items?
I just have a question. In the past, the public participation plan has been presented to the CAC in draft. And I was wondering if that was going to happen again in a timely basis, or are you just relying on
March 6th.
looking online and speaking commenting individually?
Let's see. 1 second. Then yes, we can bring it back in March. That'd be a good suggestion. Yep. So we can add that to the agenda for you all in March for a formal process there, and then we'll have Melissa Murray in our office provide the presentation.
All right, perfect. Are there any other comments on this item? Are there any public comments on this item?
Sorry, not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we're gonna move to action items. It's the motion to recommend adoption of the Transportation Improvement Plan, which is what we refer to the TIP Amendment number 3. Andrew, I'm making this presentation.
Yes. Okay, so this is going to be our third amendment to our Transportation Improvement Program. So that's our 5-year programming of transportation products in the county. And right now we're under fiscal year 23 through 27. This amendment here before you today it's a request for FDOT, but it's changing the scope and the limits a little bit on one of our local initiatives programs projects, and then it has 2 additional new products to the TIP. So when are we required to do a TIP amendment versus what a modification is, which would just be like a staff adjustment? Well, when it's a major change in the project by either adding or deleting a project, a major increase in the cost, or a major increase in the scope of work. So a large length change, or maybe a change in number of through lanes of traffic. And I wanted to mention that these are only impacting the products that are in the amendment. So it's only these 3 that are up for action today. All the other ones are unimpacted by these 3 product amendments. So the first one is from Lindell Boulevard and Southwest 10th Avenue in the city of Delray Beach. So this is a local initiatives program project that has bike lanes and sidewalks on it. I'm providing a map on the right side of the screen there. That's what the limits are changing to. And that's actually what they're supposed to be originally. They were recorded wrong in the work program, and then ultimately also our TIP document. So we're making adjustments to how the location is stated in there, and then also the length was off from that as well. So it's changing the length from 0.58 miles to 1.3 miles. And then the original description, if you can see in your backup as well, but the original description was leaving off that Southwest 10th Ave portion of that. So this is a correction to have a better clarity on what the actual location is and then fixing that length. There's also one additional change to the funding of this. Now, there wasn't a cost increase. The cost estimates already for this project incorporated that entire length of the project. But there has been an increase in the amount of federal funds that have been able to be reimbursed for this project. So it's increased by about $2.4 million. And so that really is money that the locals were going to have to pay, but now there's additional funding available. And so they don't have to spend another $2.4 million. There's still a significant portion of it that is locally funded, but this does increase their amount of federal reimbursement, which is good to see. The other two are new projects to the tip as a request from FDOT. The first one is statewide rumble strips. And so this is a project that is going statewide in various jurisdictions. But the product that you see before you today is only those portions of our District 4 FDOT office that incorporate Palm Beach and Broward County portions of it. And it's funding design of $75,000 in the current fiscal year 2023. And so that will go towards rumble strip design on many of the roadways that are 50 miles an hour or more within the counties. And then lastly is Palm-Tran FTA 5310 funds for operating assistance. So 5310 funds are FTA funds that come down to urbanized areas, and they provide it for transportation services to meet the special transportation needs of seniors and individuals with disabilities. So this is adding additional $50,000 in 5310 funds for operating assistance. So Palm-Tran uses this for their paratransit service. And then also you'll see in there the match for that of $50,000 from local funds. And this is also in fiscal year 23, so the current fiscal year. So in total, that's the three products. And I can take any questions on any of those.
I don't see any cards up. Are there any member comments? Okay. Are there any public comments?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. So seeing there's no comments on this item.
Move to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion by VJ. Can I have?
Second.
Okay, and a second by James. Is this going to be a roll call or is it going to be?
You do not need to do it.
I do not need. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much. And then Andrew, please don't go anywhere. We're gonna move to another action item. Motion to recommend adoptions for targets for federal performance measures.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this one is going to be a bit more detailed in the presentation. It's a lot of data in there and a lot more in the backup. So I tried not to overload the presentation too much with it. I can also meet with any of you afterwards or through it all if I want to, you want to get more information and more detail in the future about this information, but I try to keep it fairly high level for this presentation. So the TPA has performance measures that we track and set targets for. And these are ones that help us track how we're meeting our goals and objectives in our long range transportation plan. So we adopted these measures and targets during the adoption of our 2045 plan. And they go under different categories of preserve, safe, efficient, connected, and multimodal. And encompassing those performance measures are not just the local ones that we set for a variety of targets and categories, but we're also required to track and set targets for ones that are federally required. So every metropolitan planning organization and every state in the nation are required to set these for federal performance measures. Those federal ones that we're required to set targets for include roadway safety, which is something that we come to the committees and the board annually with. That's for fatalities and serious injuries. There's bridge condition and pavement condition. Those are ones that we have to set 2- and 4-year targets for. And there's also system performance, which is on the national highway system. And that's more travel time reliability. That's also 2-year and 4-year targets. And those are the 4 that we'll be covering today, looking for new targets for the 1-year outlook for safety, and then the 2- and 4-year targets for the other ones. And then in the future, we have targets also for transit safety and transit asset management. So those are ones that Palm Trans sets, and then we are required as a metropolitan planning organization to either adopt those or create our own targets to be consistent with Palm Tran. So those you'll see at a different date, but today it's just the top 4. So for safety, we track the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, so VMT, the number of serious injuries, the rate of those serious injuries, and then the combined total of all non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, so bicyclists and pedestrians. So a little history about what we've set for targets in the past. FDOT has set a statewide target of 0 fatalities and serious injuries, and they've done that over the past few years as well. And then the TPA has adopted a target of 0 every year since 2018, when we were first required to adopt targets. So 2018 all the way to 2022, we've set the target of 0. And then lastly, we've had a Vision Zero action plan that we updated in 2021, and we're working towards those actions now. And that's really how the TPA is driving to meet our targets into the future. And I also mentioned, those other cities who just received grant funding for Vision Zero action plans that they'll be starting to push forward as well. So this is a detailed table, but this is the safety performance for the previous 5-year averages from 2012 to 2016. So that the average every year over that 5-year period. And then also the most recent 5 years of 2017 to 2021. So those are all official numbers from the Department of Transportation on fatalities and serious injuries. And then I also added a column in there about just current preliminary numbers for 2022 and what we're seeing. And I'm just showing annual trends and then our targets. So overall, when you look at the trends, we are continuously going up on average with fatalities and fatality rates. So that continues to climb. And our preliminary number for 2022 is also showing an increase over the past few years as well. So that continues to climb upward for fatalities and also fatality rate. And then serious injuries and serious injury rate has actually started declining overall. So that's good to see. Slowly decline on those. And then our non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries overall have gone up a little bit, but they've been relatively steady year over year on those. But we would like to start seeing those decline as well. So we've, for FDOT in 2023, they set a target of 0 again for 2023 for statewide. And then we're also, as TPA staff, recommending we set the same target as 0 in 2023. This continues towards our Vision Zero initiative that all lives are important and can be saved on our roadway system. And it really tries to push us more towards how we design and talk about roadway safety out there. So still looking for a target of 0 is our recommendation. Next is bridge condition, and it's measured based on a 1 to 9 rating, and it rates different parts of the bridges. I gave an example up here of it rates the deck area, the superstructure, and then the substructure. So underneath the bridge there with the pylons. So this is a picture of State Road 80 Southern Boulevard Bridge going over the Intracoastal. And so this is the product that's actually being completed this year. So I wanted to provide this one as an example of sort of what you can expect with how they measure bridge condition. And so in this table, we're showing just our current 2022 performance for good condition and poor condition of our bridges. And these are bridges on the national highway system. So maybe more of our major trunk lines of our system. And then I'm providing the FDOT targets for their 2-year and 4-year targets for 23 and 25. And then what our recommendation is for the TPA targets. And so what you'll see is for national highway system bridges in good condition is our current number is 82%. The statewide target is 50%. And then we also kept the same target of 50% for that. And then for the next one, poor condition, we have about 1% of our deck area in poor condition. That's actually a bridge that's under construction now to be replaced. That's the US 1 bridge over the Loxahatchee River up in Jupiter. Major product up in the Jupiter area. But that's the one that's in poor condition that they're already replacing now. You can see the statewide target of 10%. And then what we have set for a target of 5%, which is different than the statewide target. The reason why we're different than the statewide target on this one is the last time around when we were doing our long range transportation plan and we were thinking through and discussing these with committees about what our target should be. We were already so low with about 1% being in poor condition that a target of 10, is like 10 times that amount. So it was suggested and recommended and finally adopted that we go with a lower, more stringent target of less than 5% in poor condition. So the action for you today is about the 2023 and 2025 targets of greater than 50% and then less than 5%. And then there's pavement condition. High level, there's a lot of measures that go into this, but they measure pavement of the national highway system based on roughness, rutting, faulting, cracking. They all have their own way of measuring that. And it gets all put into a final grade of it. And this is the exact same table setup, but for pavement condition. And so it measures good condition and poor condition for the interstate system and then the non-interstate national highway system. And so you can see how we're performing in 2021 for Palm Beach County, what the recommended targets are for 23 and 25 for FDOT, and then the TPA staff's recommendation when it comes to what we should set Palm Beach County targets for. And we're recommending adopting the exact statewide targets as FDOT has. And for this one of the main reasons it's probably best for us to set a statewide target, the same statewide target as FDOT for our county is that FDOT's the one who goes out and maintains the data on this. So they're the ones out there measuring. When this new way of measuring for federal performance measures came about, FDOT was actually measuring pavement condition a little bit differently. So there was an update to that. And so not only that, but they don't have too many years of data available for them that they feel confident in their long-term trends about setting different condition targets. So that's why they're actually sticking with the same targets they've already had, which is on the screen today. So their targets for 2021 and back to 2019 are the exact same ones you see for 23 and 25. So that's bridge and pavement condition. And then the last measure for you all today for an action is called system performance. And this is also in the national highway system. And this is really about travel time reliability. Also a somewhat complicated measure. But what it's really trying to get out is how reliable is your daily commute. And I'll give you an example. So if you're thinking about your daily commute and you take I-95, one of our main national highway system roadways, and it takes you on average during peak hours in the AM, 20 minutes on I-95 in those segments to get there. And that's what happens to you in the 50 percentile, like, on average, that's when you're getting there. And then other days of the week though, events occur, weather, crashes, out signals backed up, just general congestion as well. That might increase your travel time on that system. So it's no longer 20 minutes, it might take you 40 minutes, right? So what it tries to measure is basically that average time you're traveling versus one of the ones in the 80th percentile for how delayed that is. And that's considered if it's reliable or not. So the more variation in there, the more chance it's going to be unreliable. And so this is what we look like for Palm Beach County in 2021 when it comes to reliability of the system. So the performance measures for reliability include reliable personal miles traveled on the interstate, the reliable person miles traveled on the non-interstate system. And you can see those values as 83 and 97% for 2021. And then you can see this one's a little bit different, but it's a ratio and it's for truck travel time. And it's at 1.78%. And so the targets for truck travel time, it's really a very similar concept. Like what is one of your worst travel times versus your average travel time? And that's the ratio you would get. So if they're very similar, that ratio would be closer to 1, right? So when you go out on the roadway, it's expected every time you're going to arrive at 20 minutes precisely. That would be a ratio of 1 on that. So those are the actual numbers. And then you can see the statewide targets and then the TPA target recommendations. Again, staff is recommending adopting the statewide targets. This is another measure that's also pretty new with the data sources. FDOT has about 4 years of reliable data to calculate this. And they also don't want to include pandemic level data in this because it really throws off the numbers a lot. So when it comes to how they're assessing their long-term targets, they're sticking with the same targets they had last time. So there's one you see for 2023. So 75 and 70 for interstate, and then 50% for the non-interstate system. Those 23 and 25 targets, they're really setting those conservatively and staying where they are from the past. That's because they just don't feel like they have enough reliable data yet to set long-term trends. And so we're recommending as well as staff to stick with the statewide targets on that. So that's all I have for you today. I know it's a lot of information. So I can take any questions and be happy to try to answer them.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. And in the order, James, Myron, James, Ramona. Yeah, yes. Can you turn on your microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
On the number of fatalities, serious injuries, et cetera, you've listed the goal as 0 and 0 as for the 2022 and 2023 target. That seems to me to be a completely unrealistic goal. Unless you tell people, don't get into your cars, don't drive a motor vehicle, or you mandate that they get into tanks and drive back and forth. Otherwise, if somebody's going to get into a car, they're going to suffer at some point in time, somebody's going to suffer a fatality or a serious injury. So my question is, instead of putting an unrealistic goal of 0 in there, why don't you put a target that is a percentage, a reduction of a percentage, reduced by 10% or 5%. And then you can sit down and you can have meetings and discuss realistic ways to obtain an objective to reduce the fatalities and serious injuries by 10%. Figure out a dangerous corner, reduce the speed by 10 miles an hour leading up to that particular corner. Figure out why they are dangerous and then try to achieve that goal of reducing fatalities and serious injuries by 10% for that year, instead of the completely unrealistic target goal of 0. I guess that's my question.
Thank you so much. And I think maybe I can speak to that as well. I don't think even a target of 1 is acceptable because it ties into people and death and crash, it's so.
How are you realistically going to attain that goal?
Well, if you look at, like, for example, look at Oslo, right? They set a goal of Vision 0, and this, and we've been talking about it for so many years. Vision 0, in essence, is a target 0, as in no one person is like death is acceptable.
That's a wonderful objective. That's great. 100 virgins when you die is great, but that's not a realistic objective.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if you, and I hear you, but if you can reference back to Oslo before the pandemic and all the shutdown, right? Because our crash data tremendously goes down during the pandemic, but Oslo was able to reduce or obtain 0 death or serious injury in a certain age group, and that starts with the goal of 0. So you have to it's like an onion, you have to peel layers and layers and layers. And so again, like these are targets set by FDOT. Am I wrong?
They set a statewide target of
it's a statewide
0.
target, and so in a statewide target, they've set a target of 0. And I hear you, James. Maybe we could record it in our feedback and our comment that is there a supplemental target of a reduction
Sure.
that in addition to.
And I can expand a little bit, Mr. Bonfiglio, this is a good discussion we've had many times about that specific sort of setup, right? And a lot of the MPOs, not only in our state, but nationwide, who have contemplated how they approach this. I think the overwhelming majority go with Vision Zero as well, with a zero. There are a few other MPOs out there who have set more interim targets, right? And then I would say when it comes to, that's more of the high level approach to it, right? And so it does look shocking on the screen, like that's not a realistic target. But when it comes to implementation, that's where we're more on the focus of there are no trade-offs, right? So as TPA staff, when we're talking with AFDOT or the municipalities, when it comes to designing roadways or other trying to safety treatments, when you're talking about, let's tackle this intersection. In our mind, when we hear Vision Zero, no death acceptable. And that's how we approach that specific, design review with AFDOT. So it's like, well, we can increase travel speed here and it's going to provide a lot of travel time savings, but it's going to cost a few more lives. That's not a conversation that we would entertain, right? Because it's one of those, it's supposed to be zero fatalities. That's the goal. So that's sort of like implementation wise, it still gets done.
Can you
what I'm saying.
explain to me how FDOT intends to achieve its goal of zero fatalities in the target year 2023? How do they intend to achieve that zero fatality?
Sure.
What's the program or programs that they intend to initiate in 2023 that will achieve zero fatalities on our highways, either in the state or in Palm Beach County? I mean, that's the core of this. How do you achieve that goal?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that was rhetorical in a way, right? I mean, I'm with you, right? I mean,
It's not
already
rhetorical because, I mean, this is one of the reasons I think why people think government is stupid. It's stupid for government to say, we're going to have zero fatalities, traffic fatalities, zero injuries in year 2023 in the state of Florida, because people still get into cars. People act unreasonably, people act negligently. And so when you have 100 million VMT, which I assume is vehicle miles traveled, 100 million vehicle miles traveled, not one person is going to get into a fatal accident or is going to have a serious injury in an accident. That's completely unrealistic. When people, just a normal person looks at this and says, are you out of your mind? Do you really think that that's a realistic goal? How are you going to get there? And that, I just don't understand. I agree. It's terrible when even one person dies or one person gets seriously injured. But you can't tell them don't get into a car or drive a tank or drive an armored vehicle up because then you're not going to get injured. It's just, you just can't do it. So let's do something that's realistic.
Okay. All right. Thank you so
I'm
much.
suggesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Myron, you have a comment.
I have a different comment, but I'd like to comment on this.
Okay, absolutely.
You can't.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I don't disagree with you. And what I would like to see is a projection in the future of how you're going to get there. And as you say, if the implementation is a 5% reduction in fatalities every year, then you know when you're going to get to it, and you've got a near-term goal that is reasonable. So I understand the psychological issue of zero is very important, but it's the implementation that is important, and it's not a one-year implementation. It's a long-term implementation, and what we should be discussing is what's the glide path. What do you think the glide path is, and what can you do in each 3 or 4 year period to get on that glide path?
Yeah, I think for FDOT, they have a safe systems approach. And it's, you know, and as we hear presentations in previous meetings, it's more than, you know, it's going to take a community. And that's why it's not just FDOT, it's just every community that we represent also.
Sure.
Our action plan, it's, what are we going to do as individual in addition to what FDOT's going to do? And I think it's, and we're digressing outside of just what their target should be, right? What their target should be. But it might be a helpful conversations for actually all of us to participate when there is a Vision Zero workshop, or when FDOT can give us a presentation, tell us what are your 3 main actions that you're going to focus on this year.
It would be nice to get FDOT in here to talk to us about their vision for achieving zero vision.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree. I think it'll be helpful for us to see and hear what is their action plan for this upcoming year. Okay, thank you so much. And I think
Well,
James
wait,
and then,
I have
I'm
s-
sorry. Oh, your other comment. I apologize. You're-
You can't shut me down. You know that. With the accident data. The averages over a 5-year period are useful, but they're not as interesting and as informative as the variation, year-to-year variation. Some measure like standard deviation, assuming that there is a statistical thing there. So for example, in the bicycle pedestrian data, last year was very close to the average of the last 5 years. The question is, how variable was that number in the last 5 years? So average values don't always tell you enough. You have to have some measure of the variation about the average. That's just my.
I would add to that I don't want to clutter too much on the screens. We could have a lot of different charts and data up there. In the backup, when you see the system performance report card, we provided the yearly ones on there. I didn't provide averages on there, so you can see it a little bit in there with the tables. And then the online dashboard should have a little bit more data. But I agree with you, Myron, that it's more than just seeing the average.
Yeah, there's the Signal 4 Analytics online. It's free. The dashboard is free. You don't have to log in, and you can see crash trends in your own community from year to year. And I'm happy to send you guys the link to that as well. James.
Yeah, Andrew, can you explain to me how get the ratio of 100 million vehicle miles traveled? Like, how do we know that number is accurate?
Yep, we get that. FDOT has traffic counters out on the major roadways. I'm sure there is some level of estimation, so they probably won't have it for every single roadway in their system for it every single year, but they have estimations for that.
Okay. Part of the thing is that speaking of numbers and metrics, I'm very intrigued by how these numbers correlate to population growth in registered vehicles over the last 10 years. Because we may have hit a very important and significant reduction percentage.
Yeah.
Based off just correlating the actual population and number of registered vehicles in relation to these fatality numbers or serious injury numbers.
Yeah.
It might be very interesting to look at that and see how that's maybe improved just by how we've been doing things. Not saying we couldn't do more, not saying there's not room for improvement, not saying we can't ask FDOT for a supplemental goal or target and what they're doing to improve it. But I think that there's a couple numbers there that make this data a lot more interesting and compelling that we probably need to complete the picture. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, even like the whole COVID-19 migration into Palm Beach County, there's been a huge population growth in Florida that is, and for us to maintain the same number from year to year, there might be a reduction that we're not seeing.
yeah, and I'd be really curious to dig into that a little bit. So thank you.
Thanks. Ramona?
Thanks, Andrew, again for all your patience with us as we ask all the questions. I can link all of us that just spoke because first of all, I just thank you, James, for bringing that up about the target zero. I'm still learning about that. Philosophically, I understand where you're coming from. I also understand where the feds are coming from with just the target. It's just a clean target to say, yeah, we don't want people to die and get hurt. On the statistics, which I also appreciate this other James Garvin asking about the calculations. You mentioned like the serious crashes, injury crashes are down, which is nice. As a resident, I live mostly up in Palm Beach Gardens, but I travel from North Lake down to Yamato at least 3 times a week. In the last few years, unfortunately, it just seems to me that it's been a lot more violent crashes that have been occurring. So my sense, and it's just a spidey sense of person, is that perhaps the other calculation is that these fatalities have gone up. And so people are just not surviving the crashes, which is sad. My question, though, for all of us really, and for the TPA and us that serve on this Citizens Advisory Committee, because we're trying to pull together what our folks around us in our area are thinking as well. I don't know that there's federal dollars that go towards like PSAs for this type of stuff, but Target Zero, it's a great idea. I just don't know how we can convince people to maybe drive less angry, not as fast. I mean, I literally, my car shook and I was going, I'm going to say it publicly. I was going 85 on 95 the other day because I really had to get home to one of my kids. It's not safe. But I tell you, I was shook when people passed me by. So I know they were going much faster. So my question is, what is there that we can do? Because I don't necessarily advocate that we use federal dollars towards PSAs, but I don't know, maybe there is already a pot for that. So I don't know if that exists in the TPA or federal stuff. Thank you.
That's a good question. Thank you for that. There are federal dollars that go towards PSAs. And so a lot of the, there's federal highway safety improvement program funds that come to the state. I think they get about $130 million a year, maybe a little more now, actually, that come directly to the state to go towards safety. A lot of that money goes towards whatever their main contributing factors are. So it could be high enforcement for visibility. It could be for pedestrian and bicycle safety, drunk driving. There's a lot of ones out there for that, and they actually have money geared towards specifically trying to tackle those issues and the key hotspot issues. So, for example, law enforcement in our county can apply to the state for those funds if they're have an issue, right? And then when it comes to PSAs on cable TV, FDOT does have a PSA out when it comes to Vision Zero. So you've probably seen it if you've no.
I'm
Nobody?
sorry, there's a percentage of people who doesn't watch TV or
I'm
cable
sorry.
TV.
I don't know.
Is
It might be
there-
on the radio
Is there
too.
a TikTok or something that we can relate
We can
to?
ask them to put a TikTok together for you. Good recommendation. But they do have PSAs on TV as well. So yeah, there's multiple facets to Vision Zero, right? So it's not just design and funding. There's enforcement, there's education.
Enforcement, especially if you know where your high crash corridors are at, it works very well, right? Because you can concentrate your police officers in a certain area. In West Palm, the top crash corridor is actually on US 1, just north of Broadway. And it's the majority of the crashes are actually happening in the afternoon and on weekdays only. So by just staging a police officer for an hour each day or 2 hours each day in the afternoon, the city saw like a 22% reduction in like crashes from year to year. So it works. I'm sorry, we have VJ, and then we're back to Richard, and then James. Okay. Oh, no, it's actually VJ has his card up.
Yeah, actually, it's a follow-up to what James was talking about. Do you have that slide again whereby we are talking about the percentages of the crash data? All right, so I think looking at the data the way they are, obviously you have the absolute fatalities, but under that absolute fatalities, you also have per 100 million VMTs. So it's already averaged out, and it does look like with populations, the fatalities are going up by a higher rate also. And same thing with the injuries also. So they are going up, and they are not going down just because we have more people. More people are actually causing more fatalities and more injuries. So it is not improving. So I don't know if there is a way to look at why that is happening, like why, obviously, more people on the road, so more accident. It's looks like if you're looking at thinking a straightforward without any major analysis, does seems like that's the case. But the reality is that we are having more accidents and more injuries.
All right.
We don't have the trends in vehicle miles traveled though, do we?
We have the data. It's not on for you today, no.
Richard?
So I'm looking at these numbers here and unfortunately, between 2012 and 2019 up there, I was on numerous, with my 30 years in fire rescue. I was on some of those numbers dealing with the fatalities and the injuries and things like that. So Andrew or Madam Chair, would you happen to know in the United States what the fatality rate is? Almost, average or basically what it is a year. I have a number that I've been told, but I actually want to know if maybe you guys had a number.
I think the best source, I don't know the exact number, but the best source is Smart Growth America published a study every year called Dangerous by Design.
Okay.
And I know that every year Florida continues to be the number one. We lead in pedestrian crashes, and that's the data that they released. Except for this year, we're number 2, which I'm not sure if that's great, but especially for this region down here, and we think of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami is the metro area that they link us all together, and we continue to be on the top 20 in America in this particular area. So I would like to say 14. That's the number that's sticking in my mind as the most dangerous community in the US. So we're not doing that great down here.
So I have a family member. Oh, were you gonna go ahead?
Well, I was to say the backup in the resolution, we provide the Palm Beach County performance measures and targets and the FDOT ones. The state, I don't have the state numbers, but their average in the past 5 years is, for example, fatalities is about 3,300 to 3,300 lives
In Florida.
Every year. A little bit higher than that now.
I've read different things. I have a family member's a professional traffic engineer. He has his own firm. When we talk from time to time about these things, and he says that the numbers he's getting is 40,000 a year in the United States in fatalities. I've seen in the upper 20s, I've seen the 30s. That's a lot. And I try to just hear me out for a moment. This might sound a little crazy. Some people are like, oh, that's a really great comparison. Other people are not. When you talk about gun violence in the country, that's a number of about 33,000 fatalities. That is mostly gang related and suicide. And then it skews down there. And that's the absolute majority of that is criminal activity. If that 40,000, and what do people are suggesting? We just take everybody's guns away. You take that 40,000 number and project that if that is even accurate. Let's just say it's 33. Obviously 1 is too many. That's why a lot of people like that goal of 0, which I agree with you, James. I don't think that's realistic. But if you were to suggest, hey, why don't we just take away everybody's cars away while we're at it? They would look at you and say, you're absolutely crazy. And the majority of these fatalities and serious are average, everyday, good, hardworking, law-abiding, non-criminal citizens that are committing a silly infraction of the law that creates these things. So when you talk about enforcement, I'm on North Lake Boulevard all the time. I live out that way, out west, and what you guys always hear me talking about. And I had multiple motor vehicle crashes with very serious and fatalities on North Lake Boulevard. And after I retired and Avenir was being built out there, they reduced the speed limit to 45 in a section out there west of Ibis when you got in the city limits of Palm Beach Gardens. And they had a lot of enforcement with Palm Beach Gardens police out there. And then there was nothing. And everybody knew Gardens was out there radaring every day. There was almost a day I couldn't go by, whether it was in the afternoon or in the evening, somebody was out there. And I've noticed lately that has declined. And then lately, here we are with two very, very serious crashes in the last couple months. Where was Gardens the other day? Sitting there radaring as I doing the speed limit as I do, drive right by there and then back out there radaring. So when you talk about enforcement, there's a lot of people that are, oh, you can't do that. You just can't put cops up everywhere and write tickets. I say, yes, you can. And you start doing that. But there's also been a big vilification of the police in this country. And so it needs to be looked into, and the question asked, maybe law enforcement's also stepping back a little bit going, hey, you know what? I'm not pulling that guy over. It's just not worth the hassle that I'm going to get from them. It's just a question. But yes, those numbers are going up. I think it should say vision. Hey, let's do better than last year's numbers. Not zero. I agree. It's never going to happen, but thank you for listening.
James and then Mark, please.
Yeah, I have more of a couple of questions for you. What is it we are doing? We're making a recommendation to the TPA to adopt for 2023, for example, target zero fatalities, fatality rate, serious injuries.
It's not the TPA. These are FDOT's targets.
Well, the state has adopted zero, and then we have the ability to adopt state targets or set our own.
We can set our own, right?
Yes,
And
we
that's what
can.
we're doing, right?
Yeah, so today you have the crash fatalities, the crashes, so those 5 targets, and then you have the bridge, the pavement, and then the system reliability.
So what we can do then, if there's a majority vote for it, is instead of adopting zero, adopt an amendment to that and say, a reduction of 5%, 10%, 20% in each one of those categories, so that we have a realistic goal with a recommendation to the TPA and perhaps the county to have a workshop on how to achieve that goal for this year. We sit down and we work, this is a place of difficulty, reduce speed, fix the road, more traffic enforcement, things like that. So we can do that, right?
Yeah, I have to, I'm gonna have to ask staff to clarify, because there's no motion on the table, obviously. But what the TPA is asking for is the motion to recommend these federal performance measure that has been, am I wrong? That has been,
TPA is not asking us.
We're required to set targets for federal performance measures. The
Right.
state is the one who adopts first, and then we have 180 days from their adoption to set our own targets.
okay.
And so that's what's before you today is we're setting targets for these measures.
Let me ask you this question too. If we recommend, instead of these zeros that the FDOT wants and feds want, we adopt a reduction by percentage, will that adversely affect our ability to get dollars for transportation projects?
So
It's either a zero and get 100%, or you get 0 or 10% if you drop something else. Am I clear?
yeah, that's a good question. So the way the feds approach this is they actually only look at the state's targets and whether the states are meeting their targets, and there's corrective action if they're not meeting their targets at the state level.
Well, our
Metropolitan-
targets have been 0 and they haven't affected our dollars in the past couple.
They
of
do,
years.
they do from they would impact from a statewide perspective, right? So they would be required to put more money towards safety or whatever it is.
Okay.
So that's how it would work, right? So
It's not going to reduce the dollars that were.
it does not reduce the dollars.
Okay.
No. And then we can use targets, obviously. The importance for us, just in general for performance measures, as we're considering our long range transportation plan update, is that, this is supposed to be how we are prioritizing how we fund projects, right? So prioritizing fund projects. So we really want to strive towards a target. So in practice, that's how it sort of is important for us as TPA.
Right, and it's, you know, and I think it's going to, by having a more aggressive target, I think it's going to elevate the safety projects that we all push for, those bike ped projects, those, you know, those are the projects that that each one of our cities submits to the local initiatives grant program. So it's a system, it's by itself. So I can't tell you, I don't know. I don't know the, you know,
Well, it's not going to affect whatever federal formula is used to give us transportation money.
It-
It doesn't sound like.
yeah,
Everything else is discretionary. I
Yeah.
mean, if
Valerie, if you can
Yeah.
add to that.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to chime in. So it does, you know, kind of, it might appear as like a disconnect. How are we setting this target of 0? We don't own or operate anything. Change takes time. So we are in line with the federal government, with FDOT, who does own and operate the roadways, and trying to work with all of our communities and with all of our partners to make a difference. But we've found that our board adopted Vision Zero as its priority in 2018. The feds ask us to recommit that every year. It's a difficult argument or conversation when you start saying, well, we want to go from 215 people dying to 200 people dying, when a lot of that's out of our control statistically, you know.
it
So we're
certainly
trying
has
to aim at,
recommending 0.
so 0 is the vision, right? And the point is, we have to do everything we can, all of us. This year, we've gotten 12 communities, thank you to our local municipalities, who have committed to going down the road of Vision Zero, past Vision Zero resolutions. Today, they announced, Andrew just mentioned earlier today, over $1.5 million awarded to, I believe, 5 municipalities here locally to do Vision Zero action plans. In April, we are doing a Vision Zero workshop where we'll talk about all this in more depth, give those tools to our local municipalities, both residents and all of the factors, because it is engineering, education, enforcement, evaluation, and encouragement. It's a lot of different people working on this together to try to move the needle. It's just hard to just say, we're going to move the needle by this much when a lot of it's not in our control. We just have to really try to advance as much as we can. But in April, there'll be another round $1.1 billion of grants for outreach, engineering, education, and these action plans, because we really do need to have all those factors into play. Just the challenges, and I understand what you're saying, and a lot of people bring that up, is how do you set a target of 0? But it's on the flip side is, what number of deaths is going to be acceptable? So because a lot of this is out of our control, we as the TPA have committed, and we do this every year, we have said we're going to adopt the same target as our bosses, as FDOT and as the feds, and say 0 deaths are acceptable, and we will continue to do everything we can in our power to prioritize dollars towards safety, towards trying to move that needle and trying to get other people on board to do their part. Unfortunately, as a non-implementing or enforcement agency, there's so much we can do, but we just continue to try to move it forward. But it's a lot of it's not in our control. So.
Okay, but
James,
we-
I'm sorry. I know Mark has been patiently waiting. Do you
Go
mind
ahead.
if we pause and allow him to
I've
speak?
just got a rebuttal, but go ahead.
I guess my perspective on this is from my past experience in other regulatory and statutory limits where there were goals that were essentially in legislation or in regulation that fundamentally were aspiration.
Mhm.
Okay, they could not be reached. Essentially, there's background that you're never going to be able to manage. But what happens is that goal is there, and that goal then comes to you and says, your goal is to not add to that background, not add to that problem. And Andrew hit on it in one short sentence in his presentation. When you're doing planning and design, your vision is 0. Nothing you should do in terms of planning or design should add 1 fatality. And that, and you mentioned it somewhere in your presentation. And what happens is, unfortunately, that Vision Zero becomes this thing of, oh, we don't want any fatalities. Well, that is true. But underneath that, the subtext and the sub issue is nothing that the TPA does or recommends, nothing that DOT does or recommends should, in their professional opinion, in their design opinion, in their work, add one death. And what happens is, unfortunately, there's the whole background. There's all the idiots out there. Okay, that's the background noise. And again, unless you take away all the vehicles, you're never going to touch that. But what we do, what DOT does, what the feds do in terms of their design standards, their operating standards, and the projects they fund should add one. And that's really the issue of where Vision Zero comes in. I mean, when you look at it in the real world, it's not, it's aspirational. But when you look at it from a practical basis in terms of how things are planned and engineered, Vision Zero is we're not going to add one. And that becomes one of the challenges. And I dealt with that with carcinogens in water, groundwater. And, you can't get to zero because it's just physically impossible. But you can say what you are doing should add nothing to that. And that's kind of the challenge that we faced. And it's the same one we face here. In that what we do should not add anything to it. And the background is going to be the background.
Thank you so much. Vijay, do you have a comment to add?
Well, Mark already kind of explained
Took
what I
your
was gonna
thunder?
say. Yes. But what other than that, what I do want to add that if we really need to make some changes, we should be looking at reducing some of these, not looking at increasing the factor like accidents or anything else. There are some of these numbers that I've seen that we are performing much better than the goal. Well, if the goal is to do something, let's just reduce some of those things, make it more competitive so that we are close to the number we have to meet rather than like there was a factor whereby the interstates, something factor of 1% versus 5%, and you gave an explanation. If we need to do, let's reduce those numbers. I don't think we should be looking at increasing a factor by worsening something that is already where we are. So, but great explanation on why it is Vision Zero. It's not about the reality. We are not here to analyze necessarily here, but we are here to see. Our goal is to look for constantly that zero, not to increase it from zero. Thank you.
Okay. I think you have to turn on your mic. Yeah.
If I heard your comments correctly, we've had this goal of zero since 2018.
Correct. Yep.
So we have 5 years of data where the goal, the aspirational goal, if you will, has been zero fatalities. And instead of reducing deaths and serious injuries, it's increased in the 5-year period. That's what the data says. So it's not even a functional number because it's worked regressively, not progressively. So I don't see what the harm would be in trying a year or two where we say, Palm Beach County, we're going to try to reduce traffic accidents and fatalities and whatever by 1%, 5%, 10%. And then we meet and try to establish a plan that says, here's how we're going to reach that goal. 10% is 22 or 25 fewer deaths, 20 or 15 fewer serious injuries for this year. Here are the problematic areas that we need to address. How can we fix the problem and reduce the traffic accidents?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for Palm Beach County to receive that $600,000 worth of grant funding so they can do their action plan. And I think we're gonna hear more from the county once they, jumpstart that. It has to start somewhere, right? And I think it's as long as we continue to aim at the net zero at all time, I think it's going to, together, we every day we're working towards that goal. If we don't mind, can we put this to a vote? Because it is an action item and
I'd like to make a motion then.
okay,
I move that we recommend adoption of the targets for federal performance measures as set forth in action item 2B, except in the category number of fatalities, rate, serious injuries, pedestrian Instead of target 0, we reduce each one of those targets by 10% with the aspirational goal of reducing everything to 0. And a recommendation that we meet with the TPA within the next 30 to 45 days, depending on scheduling, for a workshop on how to achieve that goal with policies, to adopt policies to achieve that goal.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Okay, so Richard, it's a,
It's a pretty long motion, so I would like to bring it up on the screen for the whole committee, if you don't mind. I wasn't able to keep up with the full motion. Do you have it written down or?
I
could
do
you-
not. It was
Oh,
off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. I don't know if the
I
committee's,
do good motions off the top of my
I'll
head.
leave it up to the
yeah,
chair.
if I can recap, the motions on the table is, to,
Let me repeat it. How's that? I think I can do
yeah,
that. Okay.
and
I
less
move that
than-
we recommend adoption of the targets for federal performance measures as set forth in item 2B in our agenda for today, with the exception that the section dealing with fatalities rates, serious injuries rate, pedestrian bicycle fatalities, and serious injuries, instead of a target goal of 0, which shall remain aspirational, we set a target goal of a 10% reduction for fiscal year 2023.
Okay,
And recommend that we meet with the TPA in 30 to 45 days for a workshop to achieve those goals policy wise.
The target was a 50% reduction, you said?
I think I
10.
said 10%.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was trying to keep up. Okay. I think we got it.
you can put it on the screen. Let's do roll call for this. We have a motion on the table and we're going to, when we have a second. So
Excuse me, I'm sorry. It looks like it's still loading here for us.
And just for clarification, I understand the second part of the motion too about getting together about what we're doing about it. We do come to you all pretty frequently with similar items like that. We have our Vision Zero action plan, which we provide updates on, and we are hosting workshops about Vision Zero. So we may be doing a little bit of that. We can maybe discuss more about what that might look like for periodic updates to you all. But like next 45 days, I know we're doing some workshops already related to Vision Zero.
Okay.
So we've been trying to provide you updates when it comes to policy on Vision Zero at least once a year. So, but I understand the sort of the notion of it.
Well, it's just a recommendation in the motion, not a, I would, with a recommendation, I don't think that would be binding.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking about implementation wise, but
absolutely, right. So we have a motion on the table, by James and a second by Richard. Okay.
It
Okay,
deals
so,
with the number of fatalities rate, serious injuries rate, pedestrian and bicycle fatalities, and serious, all of the categories that were on the screen earlier.
Well, I was looking at the entire number of,
Exactly. There's
Of
like
the
6
whole thing.
categories that were aspirational 0.
you had a 200, yes,
Right.
but now we're just talking about pedestrian
No, it's
and
not.
bike. I
That's
just,
not my.
oh, you
But it's-
changed it.
it's-
Okay,
it's updated, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was typing as fast as I could, guys.
that's okay.
Okay.
All right, Chair, you'd like me to call roll?
Absolutely, please,
Okay.
thank you.
Ryan Rossi is absent. Aquanut Tyson Thomas. There you go. It's red. Oh, now it's off.
Sorry.
There you go.
All right. It's gonna be a no for me. I need to do some more research on my own on this, so it's gonna be a no.
Kate,
No.
James Garvin.
Point of order, can we have discussion of the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you turn on your microphone? Thank you.
A point of order, can we have discussion of the motion? Ordinarily, a motion is placed on the floor and then there's an opportunity for discussion.
Yeah, it's.
Yep, we can roll it right back and let's have a discussion. Myron. See your card up.
I'm unhappy with the wording of this motion. I would much prefer that we recommend adoption of the targets, the goals as described, recognizing that 0 is aspirational and urging the TPA board to report to the public on how it perceives it can work toward the aspirational goal. So we get something out to the public that says the goal is 0, but let's tell the public or discuss with the public how we really can work toward that goal.
I'll decline the amendment because we would be back in the same position we are now, is making a 0% aspirational goal and then, then what? Talk to the public. I think we need to put a goal and have a meeting to decide how to get to that goal. So I'll decline the amendment.
All right, thank you. I see James up first and then Albert.
Not so much an adjustment to this motion, but just a reiteration that we are merely making a recommendation to the governing board on how to proceed.
It's all this is.
And so, I don't know how much in the weeds of this we want to get, I mean, I'm all for audacious and aspirational goals. It's great. I trust the TPA staff and their abilities. And if they're already conducting workshops, I don't necessarily know how much of that we need to ask again. Especially because, like I said, we are just an advisory. The governing board makes all the recommendations and passes all the things that are the priorities for the staff. So I just, that's just my thoughts on this right now. We'll see what people say.
All right, Albert.
I would be voting yes for the motion to recommend approval, but not in the current form of this motion.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time with this motion as well. Obviously, because we have a motion on the table, we have to follow through. It's part of the process. But in my opinion is the TPA staff has presented like a very thorough backup presentation to this. And I agree with Mark and with other members that the target goal should be 0. And that's the only goal that I can support. So right now, we do have a motion on the table. We do have to follow through, right? We have a motion and we have a second. So
I can call the roll. I'll start actually from the beginning again.
Yeah.
So sorry for the few members who will need to repeat themselves. Ryan Rossi is absent. Aquanet. You're on.
there you go. Oh,
All right. So motion to recommend this adoption, yes.
For
no,
this-
no, it's right.
No.
Okay. Kate.
No.
Thank you. James Garvin,
No.
Mark Bruner,
No.
Ramona Bean,
No.
Paula Ryan and Jim Knight are absent. James Bonfiglio,
Yes,
Richard Vasilati,
I have a question though. Do we still have a quorum?
Yes, we still have a quorum.
Yes, and my reasoning is because I even though this is across the entire nation and people adopting this Vision 0, goals are supposed to be attainable, achievable, and realistic. I don't think it's realistic. If it happens, amazing. It's never going to happen.
thank you. Sammy Brown and Mark Forrest are absent. Vijay Mishra,
No.
Francisco Gill,
No.
Myron Uman,
No.
Carrie Brown is absent. Greg Fagan,
No.
The municipalities of Boynton Beach, Belglade, Lake Worth, and the Port of Palm Beach are absent. Albert Richwagon,
No.
Wendang.
No.
This motion does not pass, Madam Chair.
Okay. So we're back, the motion, oh, okay, BJ?
So I want to go back to the original motion we had
Okay,
presented by the staff for adoption as is.
as presented.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second motion to adopt target federal performance measure as presented. We have a motion by VJ and support by Albert. Myron, would you like to have discussions again?
No, thank you.
Thank you. So for this, let's for all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Okay, so yes, that's correct, Amanda. The two not supporting is James and Richard. So motion carries. Thank you so much.
And just to
moving-
clarify, Madam Chair, excuse me, it's the wording of the Vision Zero. It's just,
Understood. I completely
I
understand.
would love Vision Zero to happen,
We all do.
right? So that's why we're here, but
Yeah.
it's just.
Thank
really.
you.
We'll make note of it in the recordings too.
So we do have one information item. It is the Florida Bicycle Month. And Valentina, I believe you're presenting on this item. Yeah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present the good news. So as you all may probably know, well, first of all, if you don't know me, my name is Valentina Facus. I'm the pedestrian bicycle coordinator for the Palm Beach TPA. So just to provide a quick refresher to everyone, Florida Bicycle Month is really a month dedicated in March to showcase all of the benefits for bicycling and educating the public on the bicycle state laws, and also an opportunity for professionals to highlight best practices for designing for protected bicycle facilities. So here are 4 ways where you can get involved for that month. The first one, it wouldn't really relate to you, but every year the TPA adopts a proclamation, and we encourage all municipalities to do the same. Some of the activities that we'll have coming up is we'll have a webinar on safe bicycling. We will also have our annual TPA group bicycle ride, along with other activities. So the slide that I see before you are all of the municipalities and agencies that have adopted a proclamation for last year. It's a total of 13 municipalities and agencies. For this year, our goal is to have 15 municipalities and agencies to adopt a proclamation. We did encourage all municipalities at the TAC meeting this morning, so hopefully we can get more municipalities to adopt it. The flyers that you see in the screen before you are some of the activities that have been done in the past. The city of West Palm Beach usually does a bike to work activity, as well as Palm Springs and other activities all over Palm Beach County. So if any of you know of any activities that are happening during that time, you can let us know to promote it. So speaking of events, we will have a safe bicycling webinar March 7th from 2 to 3 p.m. And to register, you can go to the palmbeachtpa.org/events website. For the other activity is we will have a annual group ride which will be March 31st at 7:30 a.m. That is when we would need everyone to come in to check in, sign all the liability forms. We will be starting at the TPA office, making our way through downtown West Palm Beach, and then going back to the TPA office. It's about a 3.2 mile ride, approximately 30-minute ride. To register for that, you can visit the palmbeachtpa.org/events website. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I can take any questions at this time.
Okay, we have Ramona.
So make sure, Valentina, beautiful name. Thank you so much for the presentation. Is it open to the public, that bike ride, the last one you just mentioned?
I believe so.
It's available online, like you said, so just
Yep,
provide people
we
a
had,
link if they're
yep.
interested. It's like on a Friday morning.
yes.
So, okay.
Yep.
So it would take what, like an hour maybe? for people, or to
So
expect?
because we want people to get there early at 7:30 to check in, sign the liability forms, probably like 2 hours.
Yeah, just to be safe. Okay.
At-
Just for
at
folks with their
most-
work schedules, if they.
Right,
are
at
able to-
most, that'll take you that long, but I think it's a great way to get your some morning exercise in instead
Yeah,
of
for
going to the
sure.
gym.
Okay, thank you, Valentina.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, great. James?
Yeah, just more of a question about the technical aspects of Vision Zero in this. So when a municipality adopts Vision Zero, are these kind of endeavors on a municipal level, are they expected of them, or is there grant money associated with it? How does that mechanism work to tie it all together, make like a unified effort? You know what I mean? Because if you adopt, what's the incentive to adopt other than just goodwill? So that's kind of a question I think I'm curious, you know,
Yeah.
what goes behind it.
I can, okay.
Okay, yeah, so are you talking about the slide that I was talking about to adopt a proclamation?
So if you go back a couple of slides, there was the campaigns from the municipalities, this one. Go. forward,
Okay, yeah,
right there.
to adopt the
Next-
proclamation.
The next one. These endeavors that are obviously done by a municipality, done by a governmental organization that adopted Vision Zero, is doing these things, providing proclamations, doing these type of outreach advertisements and programs is a part of the Vision Zero package. When they adopt, are they agreeing to do these things?
Oh, no, James, I think,
Yeah.
so when you adopt a Vision Zero policy, right? That's it's your policy, but you have to have an action plan to follow up. It's very specific, right? And as your city, right, you have to look at your crash data, you have to set your own action plan. And the action plan could have a communications piece to it, and like public outreach, a piece to it that has these elements. So you're not required to, but it
No,
usually
that was
is.
just, my question was like, is there a requirement as part of adoption to things? And so that's probably my only question. So thank you.
We can talk more about this after. All right. Does anybody have other questions on the bike month activities? No. I think it'd be great if we could all, as a board member, join Valentina on a bike ride, right? Set an example for our community. I think that'd be nice. And if you ever want to come down to Boca or even Delray, like Albert and I would love to ride with you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And I think we are done with information items. We're down on administrative item. There's no presentations. Our next meeting is March 1st. So at this time, meetings adjourned. Thank you. I don't know, someone registered me for stuff and I got volunteered.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did get.
I'm doing the summit, the Amsterdam group.
Oh,